I bought them.
Now,
It is I, and I am ready.
do you want it, Al?
Oh, I bought it.
Do you need it, Al?
I need it bad, baby.
Supper served.
Where is it, babe? Where is it, baby? Don't do this to me.
I'm wearing it, baby.
We'll take it off and fry it up. I'm starving. Where is it, baby? Don't do this to me.
I'm wearing it, baby.
We'll take it off and fry it up. I'm starving.
Al, it's not food. It's just me. But don't worry, I'll make you forget all about food.
Well, honey, you've already done that.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? NPC The Game Live. I'm your host, Gabriel, streaming from Taiwan, the real District 13, Shaolin, in the back rooms. Good to have you, everybody. Late night for some of y'all. Beginning of the afternoon for me. Getting it in kind of early. Shout out to Shadow Buddha in the building, bitch. My brother, Markella. Good to see you, sweetheart. Appreciate all your help. Getting it done. I like that avatar with the big FU, middle finger to the haters for sure. Like Markella said, if you want to donate, you can always do so by super chat, super sticker, memberships. You know, for astrology readings or just one-on-one. Let me know. BuyMeACoffee.com. Lady Luck in the building. My homie from the land down under. My other friend from the planet Mars. Subletting in Australia, Rude Mudcrab. Yes, this is the title of the today's broadcast. Shout out to Gracie Gray, Neurojack, an old friend. I'm happy that he's around. He's coming around here. Oh yeah, the topic says should wives obey their husband? Buddhism, Islam, Christianity's take on wives and husbands as we try to evolve our consciousness or whatnot. Rude Mudcrab with a question already. He said, should husbands be worthy of obeying? But yeah, husbands should be worthy of obeying their be worthy of being obeyed. Absolutely. You gotta give your wife something to work with, right? Absolutely. Neurojack with this. He said, I like this one. If we all mix ourselves, we become something new out of that, and we can leave the past behind and learn from that for sure. Absolutely. You know, it's like that reverse engineering. It's happening already. You know, personally, with me myself being quote unquote mixed, you know, hybrid. Same with our children's. What's up, Gracie Gray? Good to see you, my friend. So let's get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started. This whole thing about should a wife obey her husband came up when I was listening to one of my Islamic sheiks channels that I like to watch. Ask Zad. That's the name of it. Where he gives the people call in from all over the world, Muslims, and they call in, and he gives the ruling on how how anyone in Islam, what the ruling is from the Quran and also the Hadiths of how a person should act, which I find interesting, even though I'm technically not a Muslim. You know, so how's it going, everybody? Yeah. Back at it again, huh? Whew. Day 2 post typhoon. Yeah, so welcome back to you beautiful NPCs to the stream, and where we ask the big questions that most people are too scared or too polite or too I won't say stupid. I'm trying to do right speech. Practicing right speech. Or they're too politically correct to even whisper about some of the big questions we address here. And today we're going to go in and, we're going to ask, should wives obey their husbands, right? I don't know. What do you think? But wait, before your inner feminist or tradicon traditionalist starts flipping tables or quoting scriptures, we're going to go to explore this question through the lens of Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism, while we're going to try to tie it all together with how this topic can affect your consciousness, Benjamin and friends. So grab your tea or your wine or your yerba mate if you're if you're on your high level, high powered spiritual vibe. Let it kick in and let's dive in. And it's a big question. What does obey even mean? And so let me slow down for a second. Take a deep breath and I'll unpack the word obey, because it sounds intense. It's like almost like a military drill sergeant, right? But the real question is, does obedience in marriage mean servitude, submission, or does it mean respect, or does it mean cooperation? Or maybe it is a spiritual practice in itself. And spoiler alert, it depends on the religion and on your level of consciousness, you know, as you'll see, right? Mel Pandora in the building. What's going on? What's going on, my good friend? Good to see you. Absolutely special. Mel Pandora in the building. Wow. Salute everyone. Mel Pandora's in the building. You shouldn't be obedient without respect, for sure. You shouldn't be, right? Right? You need to have respect. You need to put some respect on it. So let me see this real quick. I mean, just to before we get into it completely, I wanted to play this a little bit of what we're talking about yesterday about right speech in terms of Buddhism. I think this was cool what this gentleman had to say about right speech.
Our second practice is to avoid so-called divisive speech. There are times when we may come into information that we believe might divide one person from another by exposing some information about a person that's going to cause enmity or hatred or resentment. We can consider that there are even forms of media that are around us a lot that whose sole existence basically is to foment these kinds of divisions between people, to construct the world in an us versus them kind of way. Once this goes far enough, it seems as though the truth goes out the window in favor of power, in favor of saying whatever needs to be said in order to make us more powerful and make the others less powerful. And I think we can see that this is not a healthy way to live in the long run, especially if we're in any kind of a democracy where getting things done is going to require us at times to compromise with people with whom we don't necessarily agree. In order to compromise with people of different opinions, we can't always frame them as being terrible people. That's not useful. And neither is it useful in our daily lives to think of our neighbors in this way. So again, the Buddha asks us to refrain from divisive speech.
So I wanted to put that out there for a second, just to remind us of where the consciousness is right now on this NPC the game, and because we're going to be talking about different religions, which is a hot button topic, right? Different perspective about, should wives obey their husbands, right? And you don't necessarily have to agree with it, for sure. Of course, you don't need me to say it, but let's just see what some of these people have to say, these different religions. And mind you, these are just people. They don't represent the whole religion, but it's interesting to hear their different perspectives on it. So this is interesting. Does a wife, this is from the Islamic perspective, does a wife need her husband's permission to leave the house? This is extreme right here. To some of y'all might see this as extreme. Let's see what they have to say.
Iqra says, does a wife need her husband's permission every time she steps out of the house? What if the husband is out of town? Must she call him every time to take his permission? The general trend is that a woman must deal with her husband with respect and obedience, because this is what will admit her to Jannah.
And you would say, yeah, a man needs to treat his wife with respect as well, for sure. For sure. Now, Mel Pandora, you're more than welcome to come up. And if anyone wants to build on what we're talking about, there's the link right there. Should wives obey their husbands? And even if you're not married or never been married, this is just, we're going to be talking about this in a broad way, the broader scheme of things, about just human behavior in general, right? Hold on.
So we think, but indeed it's a heavy burden and a great task for women to undertake. And this is their test in this life.
And this is from the Islamic, somebody might say Wahhabist perspective. You know?
In the authentic hadith, in the incident of
Wicked says, no, a wife does not need permission. Right? Okay. Can you tell us why? Why do you think? Yeah. Markella says, my husband doesn't own me. I'm not his child or piece of property. So I feel that obey is incorrect way to say respect. But respect should be both from a husband and wife. Yeah, I agree with that.
Ifk, where the hypocrites slandered Mother Aisha. In the long hadith in Bukhari and elsewhere, when she discovered what they were plotting and saying behind her back, she fell sick. But she said, O Prophet of Allah, do you permit me to visit my parents? This, the scholars say, is a clear indication that a woman must not leave her house without the permission of her husband. Now, generally speaking, normal husbands give an open permission. I give my wife an open permission to leave wherever she wants, to go wherever she wants. Because I trust her, I have no problem with that. However, my wife, till date, does not go without informing me, I'm going to my mom's house, I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to visit a friend. And I say, you don't have to say that to me. She said, no, I feel it's my obligation. And this is normal. But if the husband insists...
Hey, Robbie, I don't think the Ayatollah committee can speak English like this. This man was an English teacher for many years in Saudi Arabia, and he's a sheikh, which means a scholar, right? And he has a radio show where Muslims call in from all over the world and ask him questions and with his interpretation of questions about their family, about themselves and stuff like that, how to proceed in the Islamic way. So I'm just giving perspective on what Islam has to say about a wife obeying her husband.
In this case, yes, you have to seek his permission. Having said that, some men exaggerate and they make their wives live in a prison. So they totally force them to boycott their family. Don't go and visit your parents. You're not allowed to see your siblings. You're not allowed to go out. And the woman feels suffocated. Now, in so many cases, such relationships end up in divorce, but after it's too late, like after 20 years or so. This is due to the woman being too submissive. Yes, you're obliged to obey him, but there is a limit when the man...
He said being too submissive. Wow, even he said it. Being too submissive.
...and exceeds logic and rationale.
All right,
and
thanks,
he
bro.
insists your gold that your parents gave you, that my family gave you, that your friends gave you, you have to give it to me. I'll keep it with my mom. And she complies. Are you nuts? Why would you give it to him? Oh, he's my husband, Sheikh. So what? He does not have any right over your financial possessions. Say no.
Yeah, because in Islam, a woman, if she works or has money, or let's say she's working a job and works money, she's not obligated to give her money to her husband or her family. She can do with it as she pleases. Whereas the man is obligated to take care of his wife and children with his money, right? And even though she's not obligated, the right thing to do would be to help out the family with their money if you're working, for sure, to share it, right? Generosity is key.
Oh, he may threaten me to divorce. The hell with him. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. So what? It's better to live with dignity and honor and set the record straight with this man instead of him using you as a doormat. Yes, you are obliged to obey him, to honor him, to be dutiful to him, but he's not allowed to transgress. So your financial accounts, I need your ATM, I have to know the password. Show me your mobile, show me your passcode, show me your emails, tell me the passwords. Why? You make him wipe his feet every time he enters the door because you're a doormat. You deserve what you get. Draw the line and tell him, listen, hon, we're a husband and wife. I'm obliged to obey you, but you're obliged to respect me and to treat me like a woman, not like a servant or a slave. And unfortunately, we have an imbalance. And this imbalance causes a lot of such problems. So to come to answer your question, yes, you have to ask him for permission, but also you have to analyze and see how the relationship is going so that you can evaluate your marriage.
So that's the Sheikh's interpretation of it. In my studies of Islam, my father's Muslim, and I studied it a bit, and I've come to the. So anyway, what I think Islam says in the idea of under the idea of a wife obeying her husband is that it's deeply tied to mutual rights and responsibilities. The Sheikh talked about it a little bit right there. I think it's the Quran, Surah 4, verse 34. It says, men are the protectors and the maintainers of women. And the righteous women are devote themselves obediently to their husband. But, however, I'll say Islamic scholars also emphasize the fact a husband must provide, protect, and love his wife, right? A wife obeys within what is good and never in sin. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, the best among you are those who are best to their wives. And in translation of that basically is obedience in Islam isn't blind, it's rational. It's more like a harmony with a leader, not slavery to a tyrant, you know? What's going on, Cynthia? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Good to see everybody. Yeah, so men and women have their roles to play Islamically in a relationship, for sure. And by the way, feel free to drop a donation. Donations are always encouraged. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Where them donations at? Come on, brothers and sisters. Come on. Come on. I still ain't get a donation yet. Come on now. $ FDMG school. Dollar.
Yeah, donations are welcome. But also your comments are welcome, and hop on the panel if you want to build on what we're doing right here. So you're always welcome to come on, as long as we stay on topic, right? We can have a good time while we're learning and whatnot. So yeah, donations. There you go. Thank you, Markella. If you'd like to leave a donation, hit the Cash App. Hit the Cash Bar, YouTube, or buy me a coffee. So with this second segment, we're going to go into Christianity. What does Christianity say about should wives obey their husbands and whatnot? What's up, Peace Dynamo? Good to see you, man. Well, man, good to see you. So let's hop into the Bible real quick. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 says, wives, submit yourself unto your husbands as unto the Lord. So one more time, the Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 says, wives, submit yourself unto your husbands as unto the Lord. Submit yourself unto your husband as unto the Lord. That sounds harsh, right? But hold on. The very next line says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, right? And translated, that means the husband's job is to love so deeply he'll die for her. Just like that Nas song, right? The wife's job is to trust that leadership if it's aligned with the Christ-like love. So again, mutuality, just like Islam, just in a little bit different form. It's respect and not dictatorship, right? It's respect. Put some respect on the name. I want to see what some of these Christian preachers have to say about a woman submitting and obeying a wife. Let's see this one by Dr. Joyce Meyer. She's a pastor.
Got on the floor and carried on. How trying to learn how to submit to my husband was one of the hardest things that I ever did in my life. Joe? Not because he was hard to get along with, but because
Like that title, Joe. Should women submit? No, should wives obey their husbands? Right. Shout out to Mel Pandora. Thank you, sweetheart. Great subject, friend. I'm off to. Okay, you're off to work. I appreciate that. She's doing a drive-by. Thank you so much, Mel. Always a pleasure. Mel Pandora, the queen of the panel. So let's go.
Ooh, yeah.
How about that?
Ooh, baby, we're so happy to be here tonight. Just singing, laughing along with you.
Singing and laughing along with you. Learning this scripture with you. Yeah. Been a while, huh? Yeah. Mills always she's always supporting in the back. Appreciate you. Yeah. So very generous, Mel. Thank you. So this is the Joyce Myers, rebellious wives who refuse to submit. Is that what she says?
I was rebellious. And I didn't want anybody telling me anything. It didn't matter to me if it was right, wrong, or indifferent. I just didn't want to be bossed around. I'd been mistreated by a man in my childhood. My father sexually abused me, and he was very mean and manipulative and controlling.
That's horrible.
And I made a covenant with myself. When I get out of here, nobody is ever going to tell me what to do again. And I promised myself that for years. And let me tell you, when I finally saw that was not the will of God, there were some things in this woman's flesh that had to be broken. And as I said this morning, I can remember hurting so bad over simple little things that Dave would ask me to do or not to do. And I would just go wild. You know what? The more rebellion you have in your flesh, the wilder you're going to act.
Mm-hmm. See, some of y'all have a rebellious spirit, men and women. Remember, Joe was talking about he don't like it when people think they're smarter than him, you know, especially when they're wearing the police uniform, right? Yeah, and when you have that rebellious spirit, it comes out, right?
I mean, I can remember having a 3-day fit over a bathroom towel.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say something about that, but I figured there were not too many Bible thumpers here. Right? A lot of people think she shouldn't be preaching because she's a woman. Yeah, they could think that. Hey, maybe they're right. But the point is, we're getting knowledge from her. Whether she was the choir director that came down to share some information, whether she's a panelist that comes up here that nobody likes to share some information that pertains to the subject, don't mean that we can't learn from her. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They would call it a ladies seminar, ladies only. That's what it looked like, huh? Looked like that, huh? Good knowledge. The word submit is very charged in this Western world. What does it mean, though? It could just mean to cooperate.
And I had the call of God on my life, and I was already teaching a home Bible study. And God had called me to preach the gospel to the world. I had a seed of it in my spirit. But you know what? What was in me could not get out unless the flesh was broken. I had an embryo of greatness in me.
So Peace Dynamo, good experience in terms of the fact that you're sharing. I appreciate that. You were in the church till you were 25. Okay. I remember she lives in my home. Oh, really? Okay. All right. Awesome. Where is that? I don't mean to dox you, but I'm interested where Joyce Myers is from. Yeah. She's pretty powerful. I heard her speak before. Yeah, I guess I was in the church till I was raised a Catholic, and then when I turned 19, I mean, I was altar server, all that, Eucharistic minister, went to church, stayed in the pew, on my knees praying, didn't feel nothing. So when I got older, my friend invited me to African Methodist church, Protestant church. I went in there, and when they sang some good songs, they actually had a female preacher, and still wasn't feeling it. later on, met a Syrian cleric. Met him through my friends. This African American brother who was Muslim. You know, looked into Islam, had my Quran and all that. You know, went into Hinduism, checked it out. Went to the ashram in San Ramon Valley. You know, Buddhism when I went to Asia for the first time to Thailand, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, Singapore. Was studying the teachings of Buddha. You know, done a lot of it. Checked out a lot of these religions and whatnot. But that's cool that you. So I do miss the old timely hymns of the Church of Christ said without any music. Powerful stuff, huh? What's going on, David Wayne? Yeah. You know, you're always welcome to pop up here on the panel, guys. Don't be shy. So I should put. It's an open panel today. Okay. Boom. Keep it on subject.
But I was never going to see it manifested as long as I was going to throw 3-day fits over a bathroom towel. What was in me could not get out unless the flesh was broken. But you know what? What was in me could not get out unless the flesh was broken. I had an embryo of greatness in me, but I was never going to see it manifested as long as I was going to throw 3-day fits over a bathroom towel. Is anybody home today?
Dolphin Jesus, what's up? What's going on? What's going on?
You hear me?
Yeah, what's up? What do you have to share? What do you got for us? Kick the baby. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think I remember him doing that before on somebody else's show.
I did not want to be told what to do. My husband was an engineer before he came into ministry, and he just likes to engineer everything, including me. I mean, he just thinks of things that I would not even think of. And really, they're good things or things that will keep me safe, but I just don't. Just like he'll tell me, oh, don't get out of the bathtub like that.
I don't see her submitting in a traditional way just by looking at her, hearing her talk. She's like a very powerful woman. Not that you can't submit if you're a powerful woman.
And I'm like, you know, when you're not home, I take a bath. And I'm still alive. And you know, I mean, his heart is right. He's just got that protective thing in him that a man really should have over his wife. But
what did you say? It's hard to submit to sleep. Yeah, don't sleep. You might miss out.
Because of what I had in me,
That's good.
I didn't take it as him loving me. I took it as him just trying to tell me what to do. And I had one of those mornings, this has been many years ago, but I had one of those mornings where I just, okay, God, I just really want to have my coffee this morning and just be left alone. Oh, but oh no, you just better count on it when you feel like that. Man. So I got in the shower, and I had thrown my towel on the toilet seat. Toilet's over there, shower's over here. And Dave had not put up a towel rack yet that I had been asking him to put up like forever. And so I couldn't hang the towel on the shower door because there was no rack on the door. So I put it on the toilet seat. Got in the shower. Got out, stepped on the floor, drip, 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 drip. Got my towel. Dave saw me. Always says, you shouldn't put your towel there.
Gotta learn the hard way.
I mean, I did not even hear what he said. Because the attitude that is in us will always come out.
Yeah, even when you're trying to, be helpful, right? Sometimes when you talk to somebody that not even ego, because ego's nothing, not even real, probably. This false identification with the self makes you think that you can do no wrong, right? When in fact, you're not even being present, listening to the person trying to give you advice.
I mean, and see, that was just my automatic response.
She does, peace, Dynamo. Really good timing.
Well, what is wrong with me putting my towel there? Well, because
it is an art, and just the fact that she's a quote unquote preacher or whatever, it don't seem like preaching because she's telling a story, and those are the best ways to quote unquote preach and teach, is to tell narratives. This is why I've literally, this is a fucking letting you, I'm opening up the panel, so people can tell their story as it relates to the topic at hand. Should wives be obedient to their husbands? And you don't have to be married or a husband or a wife to think about the question, or think about something else that relates to that.
You're dripping water on the floor. I said, well, it is the bathroom. And not only that, if you would have put the towel rack on the door like I've asked you to 1,000,000 times, then there wouldn't be a problem. You see, right away, when we're rebellious, it's not our fault, and don't try to tell us it is, because it's your fault. Well, I just got mad. And he went on about his business, and I'm moaning to God, well, for crying out loud, you can't even take a shower in peace. I just wanted to have one cup of coffee and just be left alone, and there's just no end to it. He's always got to try to tell me what to do. I always got to tell me
Sound like Eric Cartman.
Well, God, I just don't think I can stand this anymore. Now, keeping in mind, I had a call on my life to reach the world. And I had a little ministry, and can I tell you what? If I would have stayed in that condition, I would still have a little ministry. And so many people are praying for their ministries to grow and their finances to grow. And God has asked you to do something that involves you dying to self and your flesh being crucified, and you haven't gotten around to doing what God has said yet. Come on now. We're preaching good tonight. And I remember one morning when I was praying for my ministry to grow, and man, I had been to the intercessory prayer seminar. I had been to the casting out devils seminar. I had been to the spiritual warfare seminar, and I was after it. I rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Jesus. I'm a child of God, and I command this ministry to grow.
Like she's doing magic right there. Here's the thing, man. Like, there's so much things to learn from. I'm not saying be part of her flock, but these stories, these narratives, it's like reading a biography, right? Like public speaking is actual art. You agree? Yeah, I agree too. David Wayne says, and giving examples of our own false leadership stuff. Right. Nobody's willing to take an L, man. No one's really willing to take an L. Like I told you, I've been through these chambers: the Buddhist chamber, Islamic chamber, Christian chamber, back to Islam, back to Buddhism. It's because we're trying to work things out. We're not. I look at it like this. This is the way I see it. We're not verbs. I mean, we're not nouns, right? We're more like, you want to talk about the self. We're not necessarily a self, a noun. We're more like selfing. We're like a process in constant flux. Whatever we think we are, and we might not even be. We might not even be that.
You have no authority over me, Satan. Right now, in Jesus' name, grow. And I heard the Spirit of God say to me, just as calm as I'm speaking to you right now. He said, now, Joyce, I have told you what you need to do concerning your husband. And if you don't do it, then there's not one other thing that I can do about any kind of growth in your ministry. Silence. I mean, I wanted to talk about it, negotiate. See if we could come up with a less painful plan.
Good luck with that.
But let me tell you something, when God's finished with it, here comes those pruning shears. Whack! And all you're left with is,
Yeah, some people like I've heard this argument with some Christians nowadays where, I mean, these stories are good, totally with self-development and whatnot, but they made the argument that like a lot of the preachers, they get people away from actually worshiping God and trying to find knowledge of God, because they know that most people nowadays in this modern world, postmodern world, that they care about self-development in terms of spirituality, not so much becoming a better worshiper and child of God, you know? And this is, I mean, there was a lot of fluff and stuff, and that was very entertaining, right? It was entertainment. Thank you. Entertain, because, you know, when you entertain, you tame your energy, your inner God, right? Your energy. And like that passage that Ephesians 5:22, chapter 5, verse 22, you know, it says, wives, submit yourself unto your husbands as unto the Lord. And then the second part was the next verse was husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and give himself up to her. Give yourself up to her. I mean, that story, all it's telling is basically her husband, his job is to love her deeply, right? And her job is to trust the leadership in terms of her husband, because the husband's supposed to be aligned with Christ-like love, you know. So yeah, a lot of church turned into rock concerts for sure. Yeah, welcome. Hit the like, hit the sub, notifications, all that. Yeah, hit the donations, please. It's all good. So again, the church is similar. The Christian church, in this particular Christian church, is similar, and the message is similar with Islam, where respect, not dictatorship, right? Mutuality. There's some other things that some Christian women have to say about some of the teachings about a wife obeying her husband. Let's see.
Failing in their relationship with God. So that they should also just do as their husband orders, even if their husband is failing in their relationship with God.
So that is not what 1 Peter 3:1 says. This is talking about women who converted to Christianity and are still married to unbelieving men. And he's definitely not saying Christian wives have to obey their husbands, especially if they're commanded to do evil. He says to be subject to them and hopes to win.
They should also just do as their husband orders, even if their husband is failing in their relationship with God.
So that is not what 1 Peter 3:1 says. This is talking about women who converted to Christianity and are still married to unbelieving men. And he's definitely not saying Christian wives have to obey their husbands, especially if they're commanded to do evil. He says to be subject to them and hopes to win them over to Christ, which is a pretty normal thing for Christians since we're commanded to be servants of all. And in Ephesians 5, the scholar David De Silva notes that Paul is taking the standard Aristotelian household code and modifying it with an important preface, where he says everyone should submit to one another. Paul also says husbands need to love their wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Husbands may have a leadership role, but we're supposed to spend our days serving, just as Christ served those around him throughout his ministry.
Can't go wrong with serving, helping out. One more in terms of Christians: should wives submit to their husband?
Where does the law say that women are supposed to submit to men? Nobody can show me a reference because there isn't a single reference on it. But there are references about the wife submitting herself unto the husband. When it says that women are supposed to submit themselves Unto the man, it's talking about a singular man, unto the husband. And really, this is no different than what it says about the husbands. It says in 1 Timothy chapter 3 that if the husband doesn't have his wife and children in subjection, then he should not be an elder.
Okay. Everyone has roles, right? Even in these religions. So, what are your thoughts, guys? Any questions, comments? So, the next segment we're going to talk about what does Buddhism say about should wives obey their husbands, right? And now that we're in the Buddhist zone, it makes me think that I can't really think about any commandments that the Buddhists have about wives obeying their husbands, about how they must obey their husband, right? But Buddhism does talk a lot about relationships and the 5 precepts, how they apply to everyone. And in the Sigalovada Sutra, the Buddha talked about how a wife should treat her husband and vice versa. He said, the Buddha, that is, a wife should show compassion, be faithful, be wise in managing the household, and the husband has roles too. He needs to treat her with respect and support her happiness and share responsibility. So again, it's a partnership, not a hierarchy, right? And Peace Dynamo said, it's a hard pill to swallow in the modern double income household world. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm lucky that I live here in Taiwan, where my wife doesn't have to, her responsibilities, take care of the children and the home, which she does great. And if she chooses, she can, do some consulting work or not remote work and stuff. But, I'm the primary bread winner, as they say, as we say. And, but back home in California, where I'm from, we would have had to have, as we did when we were married before we had children, double income household. And even then, it was not only would have been difficult to have a child, and help them grow, but with each other, we barely saw each other, working those 2 incomes to quote unquote survive and not thrive. Those lines, David Wayne says, those lines seem to be where the couple draws them. But if you have one in the church and one not, they're out of sync already. For real, there's a word, what do they say, reprobate? Is that the word? Yeah. It's tough if one is in the church and one's not, definitely. Whenever you're not on the same page on core values and fundamental beliefs and actions, it makes for a difficult relationship, especially husband and wife. Yeah. So with the Buddha's teaching, once again, marriage it's a partnership, not a hierarchy. Even look at how the Buddha his family. Quick little story about the Buddha that I thought was pretty interesting.
Home, his wife Yashodhara and son Rahul stayed behind. Years later, he returned to share the Dhamma. Rahul, just 7 years old, asked him for his inheritance. Buddha gave him the robe and bowl, the path of truth. Rahul became a monk and later attained full enlightenment. Yashodhara also chose the spiritual path. She became a bhikkhuni and reached arhantship or full liberation. Like, share.
So they both attain enlightenment, Buddha's son and his wife. Benjamin's 7 years old, my son right now. It's pretty cool. But the Buddha also talked about the 7 types of wives. Right? There's 7 types of wives, 7 archetypes, I guess we would say nowadays. And kind of spicy. And see if you can align this with our postmodern world. In the Gotra, Buddha describes 7 types of wives. And let's break it down. There's a destructive wife who's hateful and disrespectful, and she cheats and she wastes money, right? Then there's the thievish wife who's sneaky, wasteful, and dishonest. But then there's the masterful wife. She's bossy. She's rude. She acts like she owns the man. And the Buddha says that these three types of wife bring ruin and will only lead the man and the family to hell. But the next four, there's the motherly wife who's compassionate and caring. There's the sisterly wife who's respectful and obedient. Then there's the friendly wife who's loyal and loving. That's like my wife, I think. She's a lot of these types. Servant wife, she's humble and kind. And the Buddha said these four types bring peace and joy and good karma. And note when we say servant-like wife here, it doesn't mean being walked over. It means being spiritually humble and not ego-dominated, right? Hola, Bex. You made it from Max Extreme. Good to have you. Yeah, we're just going over these different modalities of what Christianity, Islam, and now Buddhism has to say about should wives obey their husbands, right? Well, as it was said earlier, I think I know that wives should obey their husbands, but the husbands need to give the wife something valuable to obey, right? You got to give her integrity and walk upright, man. Be an upright human being. Protect her, right? But like we were saying here, I also agree with the Christianity and Islam and Buddhism, where they were saying that wife is wife. It's a mutual partnership in a sense. The marriage, it is, right? But there's always a leader. Yeah, good to be here. Good to have you here. Let's see what what we're saying about the 7 types of wife.
The series of videos sharing the Buddha's original teachings according to the scriptures. In this video, we will learn about the topic of wives.
Man, she's about to punch him in the face.
In the Anguttara Nikaya, chapter Wives, the Buddha taught that there are 7 types of wives, including bad wives and good wives. He also taught that bad wives, when they die, will fall into miserable lands, and good wives, when they die, will be reborn in good places.
Okay.
Let's take a closer look at the content of the
probably same thing happens to good and bad husbands.
The sutra. In the morning, the Buddha put on his robes, took his bowl and robe and went to the house of homeowner Anathapindika, a famous layperson in Buddhism who offered his garden to the Buddha's Sangha as a residence. When arriving at homeowner Anathapindika's house,
fiery,
the Buddha heard people talking
rebellious
loudly to each other, and asked homeowner Anathapindika why there were people talking loudly to each other.
Now, the lay people that the Buddha, a lot of his teaching are just like, you and me, not monks, right?
Homeowner Anathapindika replied that it was his daughter-in-law named Sujata. She comes from a rich family, so she disobeys her mother-in-law, disobeys her father-in-law, and disobeys her husband. The Buddha immediately called Sujata, and taught her that there are 7 types of wives for a man. First, the wife is like a murderer. The Buddha taught wives with tainted minds, without compassion, interested in other men, contemptuous of their husbands, bribed with money, and fond of killing others. Such wives are called, the wife is like a murderer.
Man, wives tainted minds, not right thinking, without compassion, not loving or nurturing, interested in other men, not good, dangerous, contemptuous of their husbands, meaning, they can't stand their husbands, bribed with money, will do anything for money, and fond of killing others. Wow. That is a murderous wife, Buddha.
Second, the wife is like a thief. The Buddha taught wives who waste their husband's property and steal his money, even if it is a small amount. Such wives are called, the wife is like a thief.
Who waste the money, yeah, buying like frivolous items online on Temu and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, you can flip it, I'm sure, ladies or gentlemen. Husbands do messed up things too, but we're just looking at these different types of wives right now.
Third, the wife is like the owner. The Buddha taught wives who are lazy, do not like to work but eat a lot.
Sounds like an owner, right? Lapan in Mandarin Chinese means the boss.
Say unpleasant and cruel words, or command and suppress their husband's efforts. Such
not supporting their husband's efforts, huh?
Wives are called, the wife is like the owner. Fourth, the wife is like a mother. Buddha taught that wives are compassionate,
like a mother, huh?
Love everyone, take care of their husbands like a mother
so
takes care of her children.
So those first three wives are, they're going to lead you to ruin and hell. So the wife is like a mother. Buddha taught that his wives are compassionate, love everyone,
and preserve her husband's property.
Take care of her husband like a mother takes care of her children, and preserve her husband's property, such as wives call the wife is like a mother. That sounds like a good wife. That's the type of, I can see a wife being like that, right? That's not the only way to be a quote unquote good wife. And men, I'm talking to you men now, don't put it on your spouse for her to be your mother, man. You only got one mother. That's asking a lot, man. She's your wife.
Such wives are called, the wife is like a mother. Fifth, the wife is like a sister. The Buddha taught that wives
Shout out to Markella. She says, if you would like to donate, you can do so by super chat, stickers, memberships, buy me a coffee. Donations are accepted. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Donations are welcome.
Before I continue with my message, thank you, Sister Avanti, $10 coming on the Cash App. Thank you, sister. Next time, make it 20, but thank you for that 10. I know you barely had that. Thank you, sister. Before I continue.
Make it happen.
Respect and serve their.
The wife is like a sister. The Buddha taught that the wives respect and serve their husbands like a sister. Some of y'all wives are have brothers, right, and other sisters, and you treat your siblings very well. They're ashamed of wrong actions. They want to be embarrassed, right? Such wives are called, the wife is like a sister.
Husbands like a sister, and are ashamed of their wrong actions. Such wives are called, the wife is like a sister. Sixth, the wife is like a friend. The Buddha taught that wives who, when they see their husbands, are always happy and cheerful, like a friend they have met after a long time.
It's like my wife right there.
Are loyal, and were born into a virtuous family. Such wives are called, the wife is like a friend.
My wife comes from a good family, virtuous family. And when I'm walking the room, she's smiling most of the time at me, which just makes you feel good,
Seventh, the wife is like a servant. The Buddha taught that wives whose minds are always peaceful, without hatred, without resentment or anger, are patient with their husbands, and obey their husbands' words. Such wives are called, the wife is like a servant. Buddha taught that the three
That's good. I like it.
Types of bad wives.
Yeah, remember what we said, the caveat, we don't walk over her.
Are wives like murderers, wives like thieves, and wives like owners, when they die, will be reborn in the evil realm. And the four types of good wives are wives like mothers, wives like sisters, wives like friends, and wives like servants, when they die, will be reborn in a good realm. After the Buddha finished preaching, he asked Sujata what kind of wife she was. Sujata replied that, from now on the Buddha should consider her as, the wife is like a servant. Through the last sutta, we can see that although family life today has many changes compared to 2,500 years ago, the Buddha's teachings are still valid today. Hopefully the Buddha's...
Interesting, okay. Shout out to the Buddhist in the building. Yeah. So here's the deal. Like, obedience, right? Real obedience does raise your consciousness. When a wife chooses to obey, not out of fear, however, out of love, trust, and inner wisdom, she's not lowering herself. She's evolving her lack of ego. And get this, when the husband leads with love, wisdom, and selflessness, he too evolves in his own divine masculine energy. And together you get a relationship that's less about power and more about purpose. Conscious obedience isn't slavery. It's sacred alignment. It's two souls dancing in rhythm, and that raises the vibration of your household and community and society, right? What's going on, Browns boy? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. So, all right, fam, hit me in the comments. Is obedience outdated? You think it's outdated? Have you ever experienced a relationship where obedience felt almost sacred, right? And what type of wife do you think you are, if you are a wife, or want to be if you're not a wife? Do you even want to be a wife? So let's get real in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this on the replay. Don't be shy. This is a no judgment zone, and we're all exploring our own evolution here. So like I said, whether you're single or married or divorced or spiritually married to your own shadow self, just remember all great relationships are based on one thing: mutual responsibility, mutual love, and mutual growth. Obedience without wisdom is oppression. But obedience with wisdom, that's the tool for enlightenment. Right? Definitely. Markella says faithful and caring and loving. So, peace and power and presence to all you guys. Don't forget to leave a dono or subscribe or share with someone who needs to hear it. See you on the next stream. Peace. NBC The Game Live. Talk to you later, Benjamin. Much love. Chat.